Hello, everybody. My name is Bungus, and today we're going to be reading stories off of the Creepcast podcast uh, subreddit. I assume these are stories they won't make it to, so why not compile them into my own little video? So, yeah, this one is called The Abandoned House by the Kyle Kurtz. So, let's get into it. The Abandoned House. Loneliness is not when no one is around. It comes when you realize there's not enough left of you to share if there was. Pale amber light pours in from one of the holes where the roof had admitted defeat, a beam glistening across a cracked bottle. The structure bends and creaks in a wind now, begging for the day it will be overwhelmed. And really quick, before I read the next paragraph, um, I have not read any of these yet, so if they're ass, I'm sorry. A black rain begins to trickle down from above, heavens weeping now at what they saw. Mold metastasizing throughout the walls gleefully drank and continued to creep into every corner. Once laughter had filled the walls that now only harbored the blackest moss. Arguments had stained the air, drifting into cold silence that would seem searing compared to the state it was in now. The growth had infected the smallest room, worst of all, infiltrating the yellow paint and gradually overtaking the crib in the corner. It had never been touched after the day the laughter died. I am what remains. I am a shadow in the dark, the last gasp of a scream no one ever heard, a hand that cannot hold, a memory of a dream dissolving in a dawn. I am what remains in the husk of a home that no one could live in, far too late. Realize there's not enough left to save. Kind of a short and sweet story. Just a abandoned house describing itself. Kind of, not bad. Kind of something nice to, get us into it. Anyways, on to the next one. Just called The Dark by Blue27 ESF. Without further ado, let's get into it. Into this first incomplete sentence. I want to treasure every moment I have here. A breeze so sweet it feels like a kiss of spring, sunlight rays blanketing a vast horizon speckled with hills, streams, groves of trees, and the occasional fleeting of wildlife. A snapshot into the mind and spirit of which time alone will be the adversary in remembering. Darkness will follow soon, and the picturesque scene before me too shall fade into obscurity. The same landscape, the same scenery, yet without the light and beauty now present, and they will come. They always do. It's not some myth parents tell their children in order to keep them inside at night, equally as effective, no doubt, but the truth in this case is more than enough to bid the young ones to behave. A number of them don't listen. The same number disappear. Their friends find out the next day, whether by word of mouth or seeing the parents of their loved ones crying in despair over a loss all too recent. We don't try to fight them anymore, it's no use. There are rumors of other settlements that have found weakness, exploits to ward them off for some time. Weeks, months even, but they always return. And the methods used to keep them at bay no longer work. Someone always dies trying, all the same. We had a man named Stovald claim he knew how to defeat them. He claimed the fire was the answer. If someone were to just get close enough and catch one of the foul things ablaze, it would shrivel and die, he claimed. The beasts enjoyed a cooked meal that night, I wager. Stovald was never found, just his burned cap and scattered ashes. Most of us just lock our doors and snuff out the lights. We don't hear them when they come, but we know what they do. Their footprints and saliva are found here and there, dotted trails of where their tails made brief contact with the earth below. Most unsettling is when a trail of dried slime is left on a door or below a window. We don't know why they don't just bust in. We don't know why they won't just brute force their way into our abodes and take us all. The village priest has said several times that we are protected when indoors. The creatures don't have the authority to enter a space unwelcome. It's too bad that rule doesn't apply for the village walls. If what he says is true, then I have trouble making sense of why they lurk beyond our doors and in our streets, among our flocks, beyond gates, yet cannot force their way into our homes. It is the oil, he says. It is the covenant. We marked our homes with blessed oil last spring. We were instructed to concoct a fragrant tonic, which would spread out with our fingers over our doors and windows. The priest recited some ancient prayer in addition to the action with much confidence and fervor, insisting that we would be safe. Skepticism arose, as one would imagine, yet so far his words have held true. We just have to be indoors by nightfall. There was some confusion initially as to what qualified as nightfall, which resulted in the family next door never coming home. The harvest was plentiful. The hours working here were long, but the days grew shorter, as is typical for autumn. I recall speaking with the head of the household, Marston. We had best call it now, I had begun. The sun descends quickly these days and has reached the horizon's summit. This is met by a wave of the hand and a scoff. There's an hour of safety yet, I am sure, he had claimed. Only when the last bit of ambient light has vanished do we need to be home. Me and mine will continue and be all the better for it. We found remains of them in their field the next morning, most haunting of all being the intact face of their youngest son. Part of the skull had been liberated from the rest of his missing body, and an expression laden with terror remained to see the light of day. As challenged as the waning of sunlight hours was during the fall, winter was far worse. The sun did not linger long in such frigid times, and the weather was no help either. The town mayor and his family braved a particularly harsh snowfall to visit a neighboring town one day. A journey that should have been easy there and back again. 3 hours turned into a near all-day excursion. Myself and several others grabbed what fitting shovels and tools we had to help dig them out once their son reached the village and told us their wagon had gotten stuck. It had taken him the better part of an hour to reach us. We criticized the mayor's decision not to abandon the wagon and get himself and his family to safety, seeing as how his son made the journey on foot, but the mayor claimed the wagon was expensive and paid for by the townsfolk. It is a better save than we have provided than let it go to waste. You should have realized it was best to just let it remain stuck until the spring thaw. Materialism does strange things to a person's mind. Their priorities shift from that of their fellow man and personal well-being to belongings they cherish most. We didn't get more than one wheel dug out before deciding to turn back. I recall him screaming into the night as his family left with us. He's staying behind, borrowed shovel, determined to dig the rest out himself. We never saw him again. The wagon was recovered a couple months later, when the snow finally melted. His widowed spouse told us to sell it to the neighboring town and use the money to start a garden. She still hasn't remarried. These memories I keep, but on nights like these, when all seems peaceful and right, I cast them aside. No use in dwelling on what I cannot change. Perhaps one day I will risk packing up and moving away. I do not know how far the beast hunting grounds go. I do not know how far I would have to wander to be free of their nightly terror. But I hope that perhaps there is somewhere free of their plight. It's just not here. And for now, that is all I know. As I head back into town, I do my best to glance back as the sun sets, cherishing the beauty of transition I see before me. Fading light acting as a reminder that come tomorrow, the sun will rise again. We just have to survive another night. And for now, that is enough. One, I can't lie. It was pretty good. Lots of descriptions. I'm big into cryptids, though. I would like to, hear more about these beasts or whatever. Also, I do recognize that my reading comprehension is fucking awful. That my enunciation and pronunciation is also bad. But man, I feel dyslexic looking at all these words. If I'm being honest, I ain't read like this in forever. Let's get into the next one. Build Me an Altar by Verdant Voidling. When you first arrived, you were starving, born into the howling tempest of existence, naked and wailing. You did not yet know the strength of your hands. Eons had slid slowly past as I drifted through the sea of emptiness. I was lonely then. I took notice of you when you were nothing more than a protozoa. I observed you, fumbling blindly with your primitive senses, chemical traces in the water alerting you to food and nothing else. A being born not to know, nor to comprehend, or to wonder, only to consume. You were beautiful then. I watched as you began to feel for the very first time, your microscopic form increasingly shying away from the heat and pressure. You would touch anything you deemed safe just to glean that little bit of information. It was then that your heart first knew fear, for as you drifted in those endlessly ancient waters, you touched me. I could sense, even then, that you recoil from me. Something born into your heart, some voidlet echoing into the cold hate of the vacuum which spawned us both. It demands that you push me away. Together we overcome that aspect of you, though you did not know it. I would remain and watch in rapt fascination as you lived millions upon millions of lives. With each cycle became adaptation, your individual organelles rearranging into infinite mutations of what life might be. I remember being vexed as to why any being would choose this for themselves. On occasion, I would introduce bits of myself to your environment. You wanted nothing to do with them at first, but there were times I managed to persuade you. Starvation and desperation took their first conjured steps as you, still only a monachite, lay at death's door. It was then that you finally ate of my fruit. The experience was euphoric. For you, it was just another meal. For me, it was the most intimate experience of my unending life. You told others of my nourishment, and gradually I became a savior for your kind. I felt your trillions of enzymes digesting the parts of me I'd left behind across eons. I was in ecstasy. I am, however, not infinite. There was a limit to how much of my essence I could cast out before needing to reconstitute myself. For a time I left you, I clawed my way out into the stars. As I lay adrift in the tumultuous waves of cosmic energies, you carried on your march towards survival. By the time of my return, you had changed. You were bigger now, and infinitely more complex. I could see that you knew more of the world you inhabited. Your newly obtained olfactory nerves lit up constantly in search of something. For a long while, I had thought it nothing more than a hunting adaptation, but I believe I know the truth now. You did not develop this new sense seeking survival. It was me that you sought. I cast myself again into a million shards for you to devour. I watched as you greedily chased down every bubble of my oily green ichor, and I felt love blossom within my heart for the very first time. From that point on, every moment I wasn't with you was agony. As we moved through our dance, you continued to change, growing bigger, stronger, and more able to comprehend your world, your life, me. I began to dream only of you as I drifted into the infinite black. For a time, you clung to me as all children cling to their guardian. My form inspired terror in the hearts of those creatures who had never known me, those who had never tasted my essence as you had. I sheltered you and yours. I fed you through epochs. Loved you far too much to allow you to develop all on your own. You may have survived the trillions of teeth you have known, with or without me, but I could not allow that risk. I began to concentrate my essence more strongly, to reach deeper into the core of your being, to alter you, and to guarantee your survival, an act which you have been most ungrateful for. I led you to your eyes, and you found yourself repulsed by what they showed you. My form, too mercurial and boundless for your burgeoning minds, became a wellspring of horror. I gave you your ears, but my kneeling wails only caused you pain. I brought light into your minds, bestowed the gift of thought to you. In truth, I wish I never had. Each new form of perception, each new glimpse of me you captured, the more terrible you thought me to be. For a time, we continued to grow alongside one another. You knew me for what I was, and yet you sang praise to me. You ate of my body, and during your festivals, you would surrender your own. I never asked for recompense. I gave to you of my own body freely, without expectation. I never wanted your children, your cowards, or your old women, yet I happily accepted them. I drew their essence into my own with such fervor. There were times when the soul would disappear completely before the blade had fully made its cut. Together, we grew terrible and mighty. You had become ever more fascinating as you grew in strength. You learned to fling the stones of the earth with incredible precision, and to create new hides for yourselves. I grew addicted to the consumption of your essence, as it allowed me to stay and observe you a bit longer. I should have known it was unsustainable. Time, you grew tired of me. Scraps of myself which I left behind for you were ignored as starvation faded into your memory. Offerings became fewer and of lesser quality. I didn't want to admit to myself what was happening. I slid through the air over your village, and I rained down more of myself than I had ever dared to release at once. It was all for naught. In my haste to recapture your wonder, I had used too much of my strength. The sticky green orbs flew with absurd speed and smashed through structure, stone, flesh, and bone alike. Your people took it as a sign of hostility from me, and they acted in kind. What little worship had remained was halted in mere months. For me, it happened in less time than it takes one to blink. Ashamed to admit that I was furious with you. I'd planned to gather my strength and return to wipe the entire species off this damned rock, but I had nothing left. I only managed to clamber up into the outer atmosphere before I fell, screaming down from the heavens. Spent a long time having given up completely after that. Your love for me was gone, and my own strength had failed. there was nothing left until he came to save you. One of your own came to you with messages of brotherhood and salvation. You flocked to him because something deep within you still cried out for a savior, a guiding hand to lead you in all your days. It was a role meant for me, and he usurped it from me. He stole away your devotion, your intent, things which were always meant to be mine. I watched, a mere shadow, as he gained strength through your reverence. It was then I decided to reach out to you. His time, no. His influence was much too strong then. But now I see you coming to the surface. I see the creatures I have loved, your hatred, your fear, the churning festival of consumption in which you once played a role. He is losing his grip on you. Our time may yet come again. I am reaching out to you. 10,000 years after the last of you forgot my name, all that I need for you is to know me, to exalt me, and to hold me close within your hearts. Please, before the last of my essence slips from this plane, love me, worship me, build me an altar. I think that one was probably the best one. I'm glad that I saved that one for last. Um, Kind of a slow burn, but I kind of like the idea of there being something above, taking this people into its catering, not making them worship it because it didn't, ask them to like explicitly give donations of people and whatnot, sacrifices. But at the end, build me an altar. Nice title. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Have a great night, and I will see you next time.